I lose a year off of my life because like things aren't working right. I have the wrong thumbnail up.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of At Home with Mark. On the road this time, which is pretty sweet. We are in Virginia at Jeremy Sheppard's new studio. So thanks for having me, buddy.
Mark, it's been fun, man. We've been here for a day. And
2 days.
Yeah, 24 hours, yesterday and today.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. I can't keep track of time. It's moving weirdly.
I don't think the pandemic has set up anybody for understanding time anymore.
No, 0%. So you guys, let us know in the chat if you can hear us okay. This is a new frontier. We have a mic above and we're trying to capture audio as best we can. So let us know if you're having problems hearing us. But what I wanted to do is talk about the studio.
Okay, yeah.
I wanted to ask you about, I've watched the progress of it, through social media and everything, but for everybody that doesn't know, tell them a little bit about, because this is the second time we've been on the show this season.
I know.
February.
It's so fun. Yeah.
And now, but we don't live far from each other.
Yeah.
So I was like off work this week. I was like, hey, Jeremy, what do you think about this idea? And come down to the studio and we can do the show from there and all that. And you were gracious enough to say yes.
Thanks, man.
But tell people like where you were before to where you are now.
I was about 40 feet that way. So this is the new studio space. It started out as like a chainsaw repair shop is what this was used by the people who owned the house before us. So it was this like dark, dingy, dusty, like old gravel floor garage. And so we poured a concrete floor. We insulated the walls there. It already had service for 240, like a 60 amp service. So that's what made it like, oh, we can do it. Like if I ever want to put crazy amounts of like a big air conditioner and, a wall of amps and all this stuff. So did framing and drywall and recessed lighting in the ceiling, and then did this amazing black walnut guitar hanger. And so it was, what I wasn't prepared for was how shockingly fast it all happened. Because construction, everybody's busy. And so we were like, we got a couple quotes and it was a ton of money. Mm-hmm. And then I got a quote from an old friend and he was like, I can do it way cheaper than everybody else, but I have to start tomorrow and I will be done in 2 weeks.
Okay.
And he's like, I have to be done for this other renovation that I'm doing. So we went from 0 to totally done really fast. And I still feel like I'm catching up. Like there's all kinds of like, I don't know, this happened so fast. But we moved out of, because I was in the basement in our house, and it was such a great space. I'd finally got it to where it sounded great, and it looked great, and everything. I knew how to make stuff happen in there, but it's also been like a pandemic, and everyone's at home.
It's been a what?
Yeah. And so I have 3 kids, and like my room, or like where I was in the basement, was right beneath the living room, and so it's like, hey, can you please be quiet, or like, can you guys go on a walk? And so we wanted to just let our kids be kids.
Yeah.
So the boat was not at the dock, but we were able to just like, all right, we'll do it. We'll figure it out. So jumped in, and it's been good, but it's still not. So we're 90% where I want the studio to be.
Do you feel like you're still figuring out your workflow for your channel and everything?
It's just thrown a total wrench. I didn't think about how much it would add to my stress level to still be under the gun to like make videos for my own channel and to do writing and all the other stuff that I'm doing and buy and sell guitars. And then also I have to film someone working on a space. I have to produce that. I have to, and then I'm moving my computer and like everything is, I feel like I'm, that feel when you're in a coffee shop and you're like setting up your stuff, like where everything feels mobile and transient. So I haven't gotten my head back around how to produce the same quality of video, which the quality's not dropped. Like there's little things of like having to acoustically treat a space. What I keep finding is I'm running into, like every day I run into a couple dozen things that I've never done before.
Oh, really? Like what?
Like treating the acoustics in a room, which I kind of did it in the basement, but it basically was like, I will put, like I basically did moving blankets. You saw it. Like I will put moving blankets everywhere that is not in the camera. And here it's like, well, they're big white walls. I can't hang, a basement is different where I could just like staple them to the rafters.
Yeah.
Where here it's like they actually have to look good and they have to work, and they have to stop. So it's like it's a little wet sounding in here, but it's not crazy.
Well, talk to me a little bit about how you did it, because it's definitely, I mean, I see the treatments on the walls and stuff. Are you still doing it? Are you still like moving stuff around to figure it out? Or?
So I tried to do it myself and it didn't go well. Because it was like I didn't do any math. I was just like, I'll just put some over here, some over there, and it's better. Because it had to go from like totally dry, or it had to go from like totally splashy. It's almost like when you're calling someone on the phone and your phone is just echoing your own voice back to you.
Yeah.
Like it gives, I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't make sense of the room. So I did, I'm in a place in my life where I am forcing myself to abandon some of the habits I've used, or like some of the character traits I've developed. I came up in the punk rock scene and the DIY scene, so everything, I'm just like, I'm going to figure it out. How hard can it be?
Right.
And then all of a sudden you're like, real hard, really hard. And so I got a bunch of acoustic panels. So like, I'm just going to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had 4 basic groups of them. So it's the room is basically 10 feet wide by about 17 feet long.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've set up 4 panels of them. And then put some on the back wall. It's better, but throughout this process, so Sweetwater is sponsoring my channel, and so the guys at Sweetwater said like, "Hey, we want to help you do this." So I worked with my sales engineer, and they like filled out all these forms and diagrams of the room,
Nice.
and they're doing like a custom setup. Like, here's what it needs.
Wow.
Because it's all this math of like where you're sitting an equilateral triangle to your monitors. But you also need to, it's like playing pool.
It's like a bunch of logarithms to figure out.
Yeah, you have to figure out. And then like in some places you need diffusion. In some places you need absorption. So I basically only went absorption. And they're like, no, you actually need diffusion. Because there are certain frequencies that these don't stop.
Mm-hmm.
And then corners are a problem. So there's just a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Like every day I find myself dealing with that. And then there's the whole recording side.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love guitars. I've played guitar since I was 14. I know how to sit around and play guitar, and then I'm still in this crazy journey of like, I have to get a camera that can show people that and record it. And so I'm in this whole, like, I've just never done a ton of recording.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I'm just every day trying to figure out more and more, how do I record a guitar so that it sounds like that guitar?
Yeah, I know, it's tough.
Especially because so much of what I'm doing, I make and record music. But the main thing I'm trying to do is capture an acoustic guitar exactly as it sounds in a pretty normal room,
Mm-hmm.
which is really hard.
Extremely hard.
Yeah, because that's what gets me is I think the problem with a lot of guitar demos is that you hear it and you're like, oh my gosh, that is like, how did I not know that I should buy a Taylor 112? This is the best sounding guitar I've ever heard in my life.
Right.
And then you get it and you're like, what the hell happened?
Yeah.
They must have sent me the wrong one.
Yeah.
And then you realize, oh, they recorded it with $2,000 matched pair microphones into a console, like they're running it through an $80,000 setup that you didn't see between the video and the mic.
I know, I get it, man. I mean, there's an electro-harmonics pedal that is based on like B3 tones. Do you remember that?
Oh, the B9?
Yeah, and I remember seeing a demo of it, and I was like, wow, that's like legit, man.
Yeah.
I feel like I can. And so I went to Guitar Center, and I'm like, I'm just going to try it out and see what it sounds like. Not my bag.
Yeah.
And I was like, what were they using? Because I knew at the time when I was watching it too, I was like, they're using some crazy recording process. They don't even have an actual Leslie in the room. You know what I mean? Like it might be totally overproduced and just to sell this pedal. So I did not like that. So I ended up buying the Strymon Lex because that does the rotary thing and whatever. But there is a layer of like mysticism in the YouTube world of like, who knows what gear people are using to capture. Now we have I brought my interface, or brought my Apollo. That was a big like upgrade for me in terms of interface. And I found that I'm still it's a learning curve to learn how to use that, but effectively.
Yeah.
But man, for my electric demos, for the longest time, nothing sounds better than a 57 on a guitar amp. I mean, it's just like the working man's microphone.
Yeah.
And then I found this old Samson microphone that I had in a bin with like a bunch of drum mics that
Yeah.
my old band used to use. I was like, I wonder what this sounds like on my guitar cabinet. And so I like A-B'd like I 57 and I tried the Samson and I like did them both and like out of phase and everything and every single permutation that you can think of. And when I listened back and muted them, I was like, the Samson sounds the most real.
Yeah.
It sounds like the amp. And so for now on, I just put just that on my guitar cabinet.
Man. Yeah, and I think it's just like, it's like, what is the intention? Because like, I love, like, you should interpret, you should like, you know, you should find a way to like color the tone and like make it your own and sound it vibey and cool. Like there is a place for that. Like if you're recording a record and you're like, we want it to sound super lo-fi, we want it to sound DIY, boom, you can do that. But I think the problem is like, it is artistic. Like I create videos artistically, but I'm trying to represent, like there are certain things where it's like, it is art, but it's documentation. And like, I think when those two worlds mix, like I think some videos are too boring and they're too data driven, like they're too much documentary. But that's the big thing I'm trying to do now. And I feel like I've got it, like electric guitars, I've got it pretty well locked in. But acoustic guitars are such a challenge.
What do you find is your favorite go-to right now when you're actually like miking an acoustic guitar to actually capture it? Like what are you using?
So the most accurate setup is, and I kind of take this from Tony Polcastro and the Acoustic Letter because they did hundreds of demos of all these acoustic guitars. They use two Neumann, like a matched pair of Neumanns. If I had,
wouldn't we all?
yeah, like a couple grand to drop. But so I think for me, like if I'm recording my own thing, I love doing, like I have a Warm Audio 47 Junior, like a large diaphragm. I think it sounds 60s and funky and like full and warm, and give some jangle to it. It does not sound like, you can do all kinds of crazy stuff. Like it doesn't sound like, it will sound like the guitar, but there's so much color getting added to it. But if I'm trying to say, should you buy this guitar or this guitar, I actually prefer the XY mic on the front of my Zoom H5 because it's just super clean. Like what's Josh? What's his name? There's a guy on YouTube does a ton of old like Bob Dylan covers. But yeah, so he uses the Zoom H6, the newer one. But I've always been amazed at how accurate it sounds. And I asked my brother. So my brother lives in Australia. He runs a podcast called Planet Money. It's a big podcast. I feel like I should know the name. But he's like just this amazing audio recorder and can capture like just that total NPR style. Like you hear the sound is like a car and butterflies and like, you know, I don't know how you hear butterflies, but you know, that like when you capture, you hear and it feels like that space. So he's the one that was like, if you're trying to just capture a moment, use this. And so I did that a couple of years ago. It also makes my workflow super easy. Because
they're
like
affordable too, aren't they?
$300.
Oh, okay.
Like for what they do, they're amazing. Like it's an XY mic, and then you have two more inputs. You can also, if you're interested in vlogging or doing any kind of video production where you're talking, you can also plug in like a wireless lav. Like I have a Rode Wireless Go. And I can plug that into the Zoom and it records and it's got like 100 yards of range. And
dang.
So it's like, it does so much. You can also do phantom power. You can do condensers if you need. I mean, there's so much it can do.
Wow. It seems like that's a good investment for anybody that's getting into any kind of recording.
If you're trying to, a whole way I don't even use it that much is recording demo ideas. Because you can just sit in front of you, sing and play, or you can run an SM57 into it and record a riff you've got an idea of. And
it's kind of like captures more of the studio quality sound too. You know? Like instead of just using your voice memo on your phone, like which is a great grab and go, like come up with an idea, sing it into your phone while you're driving, kind of thing. But everybody that I know that is doing this type of thing is using something like that to capture audio as well.
Because it's either this or you would. Like, I think the next step up from this is you have Pro Tools and your interface, and you are recording, you know, your overhead and your amp. But I mean, that's a way more expensive. So, and that's where for me, it's like things start sounding better than reality.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the problem with, it's the problem with photography too. Like if you get into cameras and start shooting raw, all of a sudden you're like, you're interpreting reality. You're not capturing reality.
Mm-hmm.
You're like if you think through, you're like the colors are more saturated and it's crispier and like it looks better than reality.
Right.
And that's where I think like there's a place where you should make things look better than reality.
Yeah.
We love movies. You should, but like, yeah, I think in that informed decision.
That's what I told you when you were taking pictures. I was like, that I look way cooler than I actually am.
No.
Well, let's talk about so moving.
Oh yeah,
moving all this stuff from the basement to this room. So I'll move the camera a bit too, so you guys can see. But so Jeremy has, and don't mind my pale legs. I'll move my pale legs out of there. But he's got a bunch of really great amps and some like old like Montgomery Ward like pawn shop stuff. And this Tone Master, he plays through a lot. I really enjoyed hearing that amp, and I still my complaint is still that the reverb's too loud.
Oh, me too.
But it's a killer amp. And then that one too. So let's do a little show and tell first and foremost with these amplifiers, because I think especially this guy.
Yes.
We didn't even plug into this.
That thing's a maniac.
Dang it.
We could. Still can.
But that I love that amp. So let's start there with that Guild.
Yeah, I'll pull this out.
Yeah. And can you guys hear us okay? Is everybody hearing everything okay? It's a new thing to be doing this in person, so just let us know in the chat. But all right.
Yeah. So so this is a 1953 chassis from a Guild. This is a Guild 66J. Guild didn't actually make amplifiers. This was made by Valco. And so Valco made these amps for them, and then they labeled them Guild. This is an exceptionally rare amp that is not worth that much money. And so what happened, the guy that I bought this from, basically the panel matches pretty much to the controls of a 5E3. And so he built a 5E3 clone. So it's all hand-wired, just amazing 5E3.
And what is 5E3 so people
Okay,
don't know?
It's a Fender Tweed Deluxe circuit. So 1955 to 1957 was a 5E3, and then there's a bunch of permutations. This is a Tweed Deluxe. So when you see someone just talk about, I love that Tweed sound, chances are they're talking about a 5E3. So it's 12 watts, has a 112. This has a Weber Blue Dog, so it's a ceramic speaker, but this is just such a cool amp. Now, the other thing that they added to this, so 5E3s don't have reverb, don't have tremolo. It's just a guitar with 4 inputs and then 2 volumes. That's really confusing, but basically you have volume and tone. And so very cool amp. The thing they added to this, they added an optical tremolo. So optical tremolo is different. It runs a photocell rather than, how would you describe? I don't know how you describe
the bulb, like the.
Yeah, so this has the bulb, the Morley style tremolo. So super washy, like it's like kind of amazing. And like if you play it really subtle, which we didn't do this yesterday, but if you play it really subtle, it just gives you this little like warble to what you're doing.
Should we plug it in?
Yes,
let's plug it in. Do you have a lead?
I do.
Here it is. Let me grab it. Sorry, my butt's gonna be in the screen, guys. Don't have to worry about it. My wife said I don't have a butt, so don't worry.
The other super cool thing, and you can see this, one of my favorite things about Valcos is they have these green jewels, and they're very different. Like they're totally smooth on top. Anyway, it's a tiny detail that is so cool.
It's like a gamma ray trapped in a cool amp. Here, where do you plug in usually? Is it?
I do the third one.
Third one?
So you'll have to check mains too, because it'll be, or like.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye. Yeah, let me
listen to all the acoustic guitars.
All right, try it again.
get any louder, it just gets more saturated. So like this is off. That's one. There's two. Yeah, so by there, by four. So let's go real quiet. We'll do the tremolo. So you get this really like subtle thing. And then if you pop up the speed, you'll get it a lot more choppy. But yeah, I love this amp. It is, I mean, the thing for me is I love unique, I love unusual, and so for me it's like there's not another one in the universe like this. Maybe someone has the same amp on the outside, but it's going to sound different. I love this thing. I got this thing for $725.
Dang.
And I'm like, a 5E3 clone is $700 to $800.
Mm-hmm.
This cabinet by itself is probably $500.
Mm-hmm.
The speaker in this is $200.
Yeah.
And so to me, I'm like, it's a crazy deal, but people were balking on it because they don't know what it is, and it's.
I can see how this thing would be a killer recording amp.
I think so too.
Like this thing is right up my alley. I would take this in a heartbeat to a session.
Yeah.
And get the best guitar tones.
And it's not super loud. It's only 12 watts. Yeah. This thing is like pretty on the money for me as far as just mojo and vibe.
Yeah.
And then the other, my second one, and we can go to we'll go to the other Valco here. So that one is a really short power cord.
Yeah.
So if you want to maybe unplug it. This one it's probably too loud. We can talk about it.
This one?
That gray one. Yeah. So pick it up and let's show them the back of that one.
Yeah. This one is like
so unassuming.
All right, so here's the amp. Now I gotta show them the grill because the grill is like metal. There's like this metal grill here,
and then there's like old carpet behind it.
So this looks like something Oliver Wood would have used. So
and then so in the back it's these old like original, like all the tubes are original. Everything is original in this. It's these KT88s that are just bonkers. 212AX7s and then a 5U3, I think is the rectifier tube. Has volume and tone. Same thing as this green jewel. This thing has a ton of bass and low end, and I just use it. I play this in DADGET, and I do like slide and ambient stuff. Mm-hmm. This thing is, I mean, again, it is just totally weird and funky, and like find another one.
Right. You want to plug into it too, or?
Yeah. Remove this.
All right, so this one cranks.
Yeah, this one is technically, it's two KT88s, which are rated the same as 6L6s. So, what is this, 20? No, this is 40 watts?
Probably.
I don't know.
Like 6L6 territory. All right, I'm gonna. All right, see here. Is it a Class A amp, like the one we're about to plug into? Do you think, or is it AB? Probably.
I don't really know the difference. I would assume that this is Class A, or isn't it the tube? This is tube transformer.
Yeah, I don't.
Or is tube rectified? I think that puts it into AB. I don't know.
I'm not gonna pretend to know either. Let's just play it and see what's going on here.
How about you play this? You can get so much juice out of this one. Oh, the cable's behind me.
This guitar, by the way, talk about this for a sec.
Yeah, this is a Rude Revelator. Well, that name has to change because turns out everyone that made offset guitars called them Revelator or Relevator. So the idea, so this is my friend Evan in New Orleans. We named this guitar the Revelator because of the revelry of New Orleans. And it's super cool. So nitro finish. This is a Limba or Carina body. Fender cut telly bridge because I wanted a Starcaster thing, a Fendery thing that had some Gibson tones. It's a PAF style humbucker that Evan wound, and then I literally last week just put this P90 in the neck because it is so bassy on the neck position. We went to a P90. We also underwound it so that it would be not as hot. It's still not as hot, but we didn't go enough. It's still so much gain on the next.
Yeah, it's pretty ballsy. All right, let's turn this down. It has these cool like harmonics in this amp. Here's the neck. Yeah, Walter's saying with one power tube, it's class A. So thank you for that education. Yeah,
there's two power tubes.
Oh, there are two power tubes?
Yeah. Two KT88.
Oh, yeah, two. Okay.
And this does not have much headroom.
Okay, yeah. So anyway, the combination of this guitar, I fell in love with this guitar yesterday when we were shooting some stuff for Jeremy's channel. And I don't usually like totally, is there a bug in here?
Yeah, it's a bug.
I usually don't go for like offset guitars.
Yeah.
But this one, because when I've played Jazz Masters, they don't feel comfortable to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want to love a Jazz Master because it's just like a vibey guitar.
Yeah. And
I love like Elvis Costello and those tones that dude would get. But they never felt comfortable. But this one actually feels like a Strat or Telly would feel against me.
Yeah. So one of the things we did was we try to add more mass on the backside because the problem typically when you get an offset with a long neck and then you put like I love the nickel Grovers or the nickel Clouson style, and they're a little heavy, so it's so easy to get that guitar to be really headstock heavy. And so we added some mass back here. We left a block, and yeah,
this is a center block.
There's a center block, and then there's a chamber on this side. No F-hole on this side, but there's a chamber under the guard. If you get this thing freaking cooking, you will feel air like vibrating out from underneath the pick guard.
Really?
It's insane. Like when you get it real loud.
Yeah.
I used to have a 50-watt KLH head. They make them in New Orleans, and it's 4 KT88s, and it was so loud that would like full on hearing protection, but it like comes alive.
Yeah.
But yeah, this guitar, it's funny. I mean, we talked about this yesterday, and I'll have a video coming out next week where it's just, it's a very different. Hearing you play this guitar is so different than how I play it, but it like does all these things where I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to play that way.
Yeah, it just has a the feeling of the neck. Like when I first picked it up, like the neck felt comfy. It felt, it's pretty slim. Yeah, I would say
it's very much just like a Fender 90s.
It is, yeah. But I like it. I like it a lot. But and it's, just playing it unplugged you know, I know it's a semi-hollow and
Yeah.
everything, but it speaks.
Yeah.
You know?
Did I show you my favorite thing about this?
No.
On the back of the headstock. You see that?
Oh, the horse's ass.
Yeah, it's
Unicorn.
a unicorn butt on the back of this. So my kids, hashtag dad of daughters, but oh, there's a microphone there. I'm sorry if that blew somebody's eardrums out.
It sounds awesome.
Yeah. So cool guitar, and so it's kind of an inside joke with me and a couple of my followers. These two guitars, so this and my pink paisley, people always ask about. They're always like, "Make a video on them." I'm like, "Yeah, I'll do it next week," and I mean it every time. And we're 5 years in, and I have not made a video about either of these yet.
That's okay.
This is the most. This is the most of time.
Well, let's do this. Let's show them the pink paisley.
Yeah, let's do that.
I don't necessarily think everybody knows what a telly sounds like, but
yeah. This is 1985. This is the first year of production on the Japanese-made Telecaster. So the way I understand the history of this, and I don't know this perfectly, but in 1983-84, there was an end of a relationship between CBS, and they were forming FMIC, and so Fender Music Instrument Company, Fender Musical Instrument Company. And so this is when they were buying, as a group of employees were buying it out from CBS, the TV company.
Wow.
When they did that, there was all this stuff that they did, and in a typical kind of like Rolls Royce, they bought all of these things, the tools to build the thing and everything, but they couldn't secure the land and the facility to build them. So in the end of 84 to the end of 85, Fender was brand new under new ownership, but they had no place to build guitars.
Oh.
And so they had all the mills so they could cut them, but they couldn't finish them. So my understanding is that all the guitars they made in 1984 were made in the US, and then they were shipped to Japan because they did acquire the building and all of the stuff to build guitars in Japan. So my understanding is that this guitar was made in the US and then sent to be assembled, and everything happened in Japan, and then they came back, and because of how trade laws work, they had to say this guitar was made in Japan, when under different rules and in different ways you would have said, well, the wood was cut, the pieces were made, it's just the assembly happened.
So when did the Corona, California thing happen?
That was early 80s.
Okay.
Right? That was 80 to 84. That's when all those the original AVRIs, the reissue ones, are bonkers expensive now. That came out of Corona. And then I think that's where they ended up just getting another place in Corona. But they brought that same team. So the quality only got better from there. But the neck date on this is September of 86. The body date is sometime in 85.
Wow.
And then when I first got it, the pots that were in it were 84s. But you could tell the parts, the cheapest thing on this when I got it was the pickups were super cheap, Japanese made, and the pots were small shafts, small body pots. It was a plasticky switch. So you can tell that's the place that they cut the most money. It also, I swapped the tuners. But I got this guitar because I saw this forever. There was a guy that would play this in the French Quarter in New Orleans. And he was just so cool. And he'd play right in front of this bar that I loved. And I was in a sales gig where I was taking people out, and they'd come in town here's New Orleans.
Yeah.
So I would see this guy, and I just would tell him I love that guitar. It's so cool. If you ever want to sell it, let me know. I was I will. And then I came back one time, and he's playing a 335. I was hey, where's your telly? He's I got tired of it, man. Which he played that guitar. I just bought this 6 years ago. So he bought it new in Metairie, which is a suburb of New Orleans, and he played it all the time. And so I was well, what happened to it? Where'd it go? He's I sold it. I was why did you sell it to me? And so I thought it was gone. And then on Craigslist, it showed up old old Paisley Telly. Like, didn't say Fender, didn't say Japan,
Mm.
just old Paisley Telly. And I was like, I'm in. Because I love Paisley Tellys. And so this one showed up, and it was a friend of a friend, and who I became really close with, the guy who owns Baton Rouge Music Exchange. And he had it, and I rarely pay too much for a guitar, but I think I paid $1,000 for this, with all the pickups and all the hardware that needed to be swapped. And so, like, I'm in this probably $1,400 now, but it's just the coolest freaking Telly I've ever had. It needs a refret. Like, all the frets have some pretty good dips in them. But I upgraded with Seymour Duncan Antiquities. I just love this guitar. To me, like, it does everything. And, like, this guitar does everything I need. And overall, for me, Tellys do everything I want a guitar to do.
It's true.
Yeah.
So, but this isn't the same on that guy.
It is.
It's
sorry, I didn't connect those together. So the guy sold it. I was like, well, who'd you sell it to? And he's like, I don't know, some guy in Baton Rouge. Which Baton Rouge is, 300,000 people.
Yeah.
It's gone. But then it was a couple months, about 6 months later, it showed up, and I saw it, and I was like, there can't be two. Like, there can't be two that had like this much mojo and playware, and just looked so cool.
Yeah.
So I found out a couple of years later that he sold it for $400.
Oof. Woof.
And so I paid $1,600 over, but that's fine. And every now and then, like last week, somebody was like, I want to buy it. And they offered me kind of a crazy number. I was like, okay, I'll sell it. And then I told my wife, and she's like, no, like, because this is like, there are so many pictures of like my kids playing with this guitar and just like plunking on it.
Yeah.
And like, for me, I think this one's going to be with me forever.
Yeah.
Because it's just so quintessentially me. So with that said, like, it's now time for me to put some money back into it. I need to get it refretted. I've just been hesitant because I love like the wear and the patina on the frets, but it's getting to where it's quite buzzy.
Yeah.
The G and the B. But yeah, it doesn't have brass saddles. That's the thing. Everyone's always like, make it sound like a Telly, put brass saddles. I'm like, why? These are so cool.
Yeah.
And
what kind of a bridge is it?
It's the original Fender. Yeah, so this serial number is an 86. If you take it by the A serial number from here, it doesn't have a serial number on the plate. And so there aren't a ton of identifying markers. Inside the, under the neck pickup is a pencil mark where they say it's something 85 on the body, and then 86. It's September of 86 on the neck heel.
That's so cool, man.
But yeah, it's super cool. And I love that it's like, this is like one of the earliest reissues. And even then, it's a reissue that's 36 years old.
Yeah.
So it's like a reissue that is as old as, like, do the math. Holy cow. We're like, so this is, well, no, the math is wrong. So this guitar came out in 85, 86. And if you go how much time between 85, 86, all the way back to 68, 69, that's not actually that long. Like 17, 18 years.
That's scary, isn't it?
And now we're like 35 years past that, past the reissue. So, yeah. I have this, and I don't play a ton of country. But I think, my heroes, like Brad Paisley, who I freaking love, has such cool... Yeah, and the last thing I'll say on the color... What's cool on the reissues is that the reissues are like not even close to the same color as the originals. The originals are like super gold, and they mellow out. They get really amber colored. Where this one has gone more green and more like Barbie pink. I
do see that, yeah.
But it's just freaking cool, and it's not super heavy.
No. It's got some weight to it.
Yeah.
How heavy is it?
I don't know. Comparing it to a 52 reissue, I think it's 7 something. But I think what are the lightest Tellys? This one's definitely heavier. This is an ash body 52. Or what do you think?
It's negligible almost. I don't know.
Almost like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's one of those details I always get asked. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, it's like when people ask me for like, what's the neck radius on it? Like, I don't.
Well, how long have you had this one?
Couple months.
Okay.
This one was a trade. I traded my Nash. I had a Nash 252 that I traded for this.
Was this like an anniversary guitar? Because I remember
I had another one.
Didn't Fender do like they had like matching bass and electric?
So Fender's so hard to keep track of. Like, Wait, what anniversary are you talking about? Oh, the anniversary of like a Tele. Got it. Okay, that's 52. And then they'll do a 25th anniversary. You're like, of what? Like, of Strats being made in California. You're like, that's not helpful. It's just too many details.
I remember though that my bass player, this might have been.
Did it have the 60?
No, it didn't. But like, this is like my old band that I was touring with in the like early 2000s, late 90s. We had just started making some money. So like everybody gets X amount of dollars, put it towards gear.
Yeah.
And I remember going to a shop and there was like a Blackguard with this like amber honey kind of finish that he got a bass.
Okay.
And he was like, "Oh, look, they have a matching, Strat or Tele. You should get it."
Like, wow. So they did a 60th anniversary Tele. They did 60th anniversary of the company. So from 46. So in 96 there was the 50th anniversary, and then there was the 60th in 06, and then there in 2012 there was a 60. What's the math on that? From 52 to
12.
To 12 is 60.
60, yeah.
So they did a 60th anniversary in 12, which is it's confusing because then it's like just the Tele.
Yeah.
But they did those, and I had one of those maybe 2 years ago. That it's like a diamond inlaid, and it says 46 to 06.
Oh, I remember seeing those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're so like, with that you're like, it's this big dumb inlay on the front of a guitar that's oriented this way, but I want to play it this way.
Yeah.
That one didn't get me. But this is a bone stock 52 Tele reissue, except the pickups are Migas Touch. They're a guy named Greg Migas, which is
I've never heard of that. That's clever.
Yeah. So it's a guy, Greg Migas. He's insane as far as detail of like, he's like, I'm going to make the best and most accurate Fender pickups that I can. So he stores the same alloy for the covers, the same exact composition, and what do you call that? The amount of magnetism. Like the magnets are the exact same ceramic as the originals. And this is like, it's kind of crazy. Like it's just incredibly accurate and not as musical. So the bridge is a little microphonic when you get really, really loud.
I don't mind that. There's kind of
it's cool. It's
thing about it.
It's musical. It's not just like some are just like squealing. But anyway, I love 52 Teles. I'll trade them anytime I can. And these are incredibly hot rate. Like in my mind, they're like $1,400 guitars, and now everybody's asking $18,000 to $2,000. So
it's like when I bought my Sirs, like.
Yeah.
So the Tele that you like, I think I paid $1,700 for that
that's awesome.
Used, I think. But when I bought my two Sirs, the Strats that are now gone, they were like $2,200, and now they're like $31.
Holy cow!
But it wasn't that long ago. Like I bought my first Sir Strat in like 2015. That doesn't seem long enough ago to warrant. Jacking the prices up that much, but I don't know. I mean, maybe they're just really popular guitars.
I think the boutique electric guitar market has finally like blown up.
Yeah,
it's always stuck out to me, and we talked about this earlier today. But like boutique acoustic guitars have been around since the 70s, and something has taken 50 years
to catch up.
Yeah, and I don't think either of us are particularly qualified to speculate.
I'm getting there, man.
Yeah.
Terry's here.
Terry.
Only one Tele, refinished blonde 53, just like that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Here he is, buddy. So let's do this because we're running out of time. Because Jeremy and I can talk all day long.
It's true.
It's funny because when we've been hanging out, we're like, I feel like I've known you for 10 years, but it's been
a couple months.
All right, so real quick, I want you to tell people we did a video today about Martin guitars for Jeremy's channel. But this Huss and Dalton that I played is fantastic. So I just want you quickly, just grab a couple of these and just talk a little bit about your love of why you bought these specific guitars.
Yeah. So it's funny, man. I grew up in the punk rock scene. I love punk and hardcore and metal. And somewhere along the way, I discovered a deep love of Martin acoustic guitars.
Yeah.
So this is just kind of a general smattering. There's a very normal D18 over here on the far edge. Inside, there's just one that's a little quirky and weird. This one's worth playing for sure. So this is a D18 VS. This is the vintage. So it stands for vintage and slot. So it's a slot headstock. And so in the Martin world, slot headstock also means that it's a 12 fret. So instead of the neck being 2 frets longer and meeting at the 14th fret, it's at the 12th. And
what constitutes a parlor guitar?
Parlor guitar is smaller than a single O.
Okay.
So it's very small. I think that for the most part, when people say parlor, they're using that phrase incorrectly.
Right.
I
have
a parlor now. It's a Santa Cruz Firefly, incredibly expensive guitar, $7,500, and it's tiny. It's like a little kid's guitar.
What? So remember when Martin put out that John Mayer parlor guitar? Was that an actual parlor?
No, that was a double O.
Why did they call it that?
Because I don't know.
Because it sold better.
So Tyler probably isn't in here. You might get a better sound if you turn off echo cancellation in StreamYard.
Well, that means when we were playing electric.
So Tyler, who runs the OM28 fan club on Instagram, he knows the stage coaches. They're 0045s. Those are incredibly expensive. They're $10,000 now for the used ones. They're selling more used for more money used than they were new.
That's crazy.
I think new they were $9,000.
Oh my gosh.
And then the original OMJM 28s that have like the outline OM bridge. I mean, those are big bucks, $7,000-8,000 now.
Oh my gosh. Dude.
But those are limited because they only made 400 and whatever. What's the area code in Atlanta? Whatever, 4 or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so parlor guitars. So generally speaking, in Martin's world, we'll go from the biggest down to the smallest. You have like a jumbo. Jumbo doesn't really count. Martin doesn't really make jumbos. They make dreadnoughts. So a D, and then you get to a 4/0, which is 4 O's, or some people call it a jumbo. Some people call it an M. Confusing. Very rare. You don't see many of them. And then you move into triple O, single O, and double O.
Mm-hmm.
Single O and OM are the same size. Triple O and OM are the same size. They're more like, that's a very normal size guitar that you would see, like an orchestra model. And then you get a double O, that's a lot smaller. So think Jeff Tweedy on a double O.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll go with artists using certain guitars. Neil Young, Bob Dylan, dreadnoughts. You go down to triple O's, think Gillian Welch, think Sierra Hull. Move on down to double O's, think Jeff Tweedy. Move down to smaller single O. Single O is very small. Think that guy from the Milk Carton Kids.
Mm-hmm.
He plays an O15.
Oh, okay.
That's a very small guitar. It's 14.5 on the lower bout. And then you move to the tiny stuff. You move to like a 5. So it's like a 528, a 527.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, think Sting. Sting is probably the most common. That tiny, tiny little guitar.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a kid's guitar. That is technically a parlor guitar. That and a single O.
Okay.
Yeah, parlor guitar is vague, but lots of bigger guitars get called parlor guitars.
Right. We'll play that one.
Yeah. There's no way to play this guitar and not play like John Prine or just like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is a really cool, made in the 90s. Just interesting guitar, and I'm a sucker for so much about this. I love mahogany guitars. I love Martins. I love unusual stuff. This is a 1970 Martin D41. It needs a neck reset really badly, and the strings are pretty dead, so it's not that exciting to hear right
But
now.
play that one.
Yes.
Play these two.
Yeah, these two.
And then we'll do
have
lightning round.
Okay. So this is a Husson Dalton TDM from 2011. This is very much an 18 style. So if you imagine kind of like chili or like gumbo, if you're from Louisiana, is like, it's an idea way more than it's a recipe. it's like, you get all these things and make sure that they work together. And there's something great about a spruce top and a mahogany backsides. This is kind of a hot rodded, like very much a hot rodded D18. So yeah, it aimed mostly at like a bluegrass player, but for me as someone who's not really a bluegrass player, this thing just does everything I would do. So like in my channel, I always talk about what kinds of guitars, what kind of archetypes, like each role you should have. This is my ride or die. Like this is the guitar that will do every show with me. Has an Eller Bags pickup. I mean,
it's awesome.
I just love it.
It's killer. It's very balanced. I was saying that earlier when we were recording. It's got like every frequency you'd want.
And this is a Paget Model 1. This is the second guitar of this ever made. This is made by Ben Paget in Monterey, Virginia.
Dude, that's beautiful.
It's just beautiful and sounds so killer. It's a totally different shape. What I love is that there's a new generation of acoustic guitar builders, and it's just like there's a whole new generation too of how you would like. None of those guys that are building these new guitars are building dreadnoughts. They're all doing a new thing, a different thing. This is much more akin to a triple O. Like a triple O 18 is probably the closest thing to it, but even then has a much thicker saddle. And what I love, acoustic guitars, one of the biggest problems is the ability to intonate them. Where you're like, it's close.
Right.
You're like, yeah, just don't play those notes.
Do you think acoustics, this might be a really dumb question, but are acoustic guitar makers like anti-cutaway?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm anti-cutaway because I think they look goofy.
Yeah.
Unless I think Taylor and Larrivee have the best cutaways. They do those real spicy Florentine cutaways.
Because my Taylor, my 714 has a cutaway.
Which are tasteful.
Yeah. It didn't bother me when I saw it. And I'm a Schweidel guy. Yeah. So I like to Schweidel up top. So it's whatever. But
so I think there are certain builders, acoustic guitars like Gibson. So like acoustic guitar builders and Gibson in the electric world and the acoustic world, they have this boat anchor, this millstone of tradition tied around their necks. We're like, well, we can't do anything that'll ruffle the feathers of the old lawyers that'll buy these for $8,000.
Yeah.
And just traditionally, most acoustic guitars don't have cutaways. Now that's not to say like I think this whole new generation. So like Tim Robbins is building astounding acoustic guitars that have really cool cutaways. Ben is going to do cutaways, I know, on his stuff later on. But there's actually the brother, like the twin of this guitar is for sale. It'll actually be on my website here soon. It's this same guitar, but it's Cocobolo back in size.
Oh.
Which is this. Actually, this wood is offcuts from the Cocobolo off of that guitar.
It's killer, man.
It's really cool. And so that guitar is like more bassy, more pushed. I chose this one mostly because of this and being mahogany.
Well, thank you so much. And then
there's way more we can talk about.
Yeah, so much we can talk about. And then Terry's saying that you're walking encyclopedia of guitars. I agree with you 100%.
It's because Virginia doesn't have a pro sports team.
We were just talking about that earlier.
I went full force into it.
Quality never goes out of style. 2 quality woods are getting harder to find. Our dollar is being devalued. That's why the prices are rising. It's good points. I mean, it's weird because there's some guitars that will always be out of my reach. Yeah. Unless I sell everything, and I'm not willing to do that.
I haven't paid full retail for any of this stuff. Like my only chance of owning any of these guitars is being clever.
Well, that's the thing. You're resourceful.
Yeah. Find ways to buy low.
Yeah.
Sell high.
100%. All right, let's do, you guys, this is going to be strange. We're going to do the lightning round get down from here. So we got 105 BPM per usual.
Okay. Just add some anxiety.
Yeah, a nice little cruising altitude here. So see if this is, yeah, it's getting picked up. All right. Now, you've already done this.
Yeah.
So this is kind of cheating because you've already done it.
But I haven't heard them beforehand.
You have not heard them beforehand. I wrote them like 20 minutes before. It's not my best work, folks. We've been having too much fun the past 24 hours or so. All right. Lennon or McCartney?
I went McCartney last time. I'm sticking with McCartney.
All right, cool. Cold cut cheesesteak.
Oh, cheesesteak. Well, it depends. Cheesesteak are where you are, not cheesesteak here.
Okay. So closer to PA, closer to Philly, cheesesteak.
Yeah.
All right. IPA or stout?
Stout.
Okay. Metallica or Megadeth?
Oh. I really don't like either.
I don't listen to either of those bands.
I would go like Ride the Lightning or like Ride the Lightning and before. I'd go Metallica.
All right. Dave Mustaine hates Lars so much.
I hate Lars.
All right. Swimming or surfing?
Swimming or surfing? Swimming.
Okay. Pogo stick, hula hoop.
That's good. I'd go pogo stick. I love Brian Regan's joke of like, my dad got me a pogo stick so I could ride to school. Put a basket on the front. Got to pick my books up every time.
That's pretty solid. Mayo or no mayo?
So I grew up being told that mayo makes you fat, and I never ate mayo. And then I got fat without eating mayo and discovered that it's freaking delicious. So, mayo.
Okay.
And if you can make it yourself.
Yeah. We used to do that when my wife we were trying to cut sugar.
Yeah.
Delicious mayo.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. And I think we used the Magic Bullet. Remember that commercial thing?
Mm-hmm.
That makes a mean pina colada too.
That's true.
Let me just tell you. All right. Tape or CD?
CD.
All right.
Because tapes like eventually give up the ghost.
They do.
Like CDs will always be a little too compressed, but tapes eventually just.
And then it turns into like an old country album.
Yeah.
Regardless if you're listening to Green Day. All right, Boba Fett or Mando? If you had to choose between one of those dudes.
I'd go Mando.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd go Mando because you see how much moral struggle and like obligation and like loneliness and commitment. It's just like there's such a beautiful character arc to him.
Yeah, I agree.
Boba is like a badass the whole time. You're like, yeah, blow stuff up.
Yeah.
But with Mando, you're like, don't take your helmet off.
Yeah. Album that you could erase. So, and now you've done this before, but think of another one that was.
So I said Harvest by Neil Young last time.
Yeah.
I think I would go back. This is a weird one from left field. I would erase In Keeping Secrets of Silent Earth by Coheed and Cambria. So I could listen to that again.
Okay. So here's the thing. I've heard that band name so many times.
How have you not heard them?
I've never listened to them. And my boss at work at Berkeley, I think he's a huge.
Because they're so like, they hate being compared to Rush, but they are like proggy. And I think also, so you would love this. Every record, they write a graphic novel first. They publish the graphic novel, and then each song is the soundtrack in reverse order to the record.
Shut up.
It's so good.
I did not know that.
So it's all like, it is the story, and then it's the soundtrack, and then so it's basically like, you read the book, you get stoked for the album, you listen to the album, you're like, oh my gosh, and then you go back, and you read it while listening to the album. It's like 3 times the joy of like, yeah.
That's a lot of effort.
Yeah.
It's already a lot of effort to release a record, let alone do a graphic novel and all that.
But In Keeping Secrets of Silent Earth is so good. Okay. Delirium Trigger, all that stuff is so good.
Well,
if you love like Explorer, Les Paul, Full Marshall, and Mesa, it's like.
I don't love it, but I'm already in with the graphic novel thing.
Yeah.
That is a whole reverse engineering an album almost. It's like
it's amazing.
Man.
Yeah.
Well, Jeremy.
This was fun.
Yeah, dude. It was such a good time.
You're the first person I've hung out with, other than my family.
Likewise.
Like a year and a half.
Yeah.
You're the first person to come in here.
Well, I feel very honored because it's a really cool space. You got something really cool going on here.
Man.
Tell everybody where they can find your stuff if they're not hip, which I'm sure they all are.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram, Jeremy the Guitar Hunter. You can find me on YouTube. It's youtube.com/Jeremy Sheppard because I could never figure out how to. And then now I have like couple thousand people. Like, I can't change it now.
Yeah.
But JeremyTheGuitarHunter.com. I have a bunch of guitars for sale, a bunch of merch.
His shirts are really comfy. I would recommend them, and I'm a t-shirt snob.
Yeah, I'm super particular. They're printed. They're screen printed by one of my best friends from growing up. They're really comfy shirts, and we do a double hit on the ink so that they last forever.
Yep. And then, so Zach from Mythos needs to take a hint on that because my Mythos sweatshirt is, lettering is almost gone.
I was going to wear my True Bypass, and it is truly bypassing away. But it's just like, it's a bummer. And that's why I haven't gone to Teespring. And that's what's crazy is like I can make way more money and sell way more shirts and not have to deal with packing them up. But it matters.
It does matter. Like
a good shirt matters.
Yeah.
This shirt wins.
Before I bought this from Etsy, I hit the person up and was like, please tell me that the quality of the shirt is good. And the printing is good because I'm a t-shirt snob. And if it fades within a year, you'll be hearing from me.
I'm about if a shirt pills, because I wear t-shirts every day.
Me too.
And so, yeah, take that corporate job. There's a stretch I didn't get to.
Man. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. Jeremy Sheppard, Guitar Hunter. Please check him out. Please subscribe. Do all the things that all the kiddos do these days.
Yeah.
And take care of yourself. Take care of each other. We'll see you next time.
Fill the world with music and friendship.
Absolutely.